Hey, what's good, people? This your boy Cincy, aka Mr. Good Vibes, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. How's your trading? How is life? As I always say, my prayer is that the Lord Almighty will continue to protect and guide you in this journey in the mighty name of Jesus. Now, with that being said, today I'm going to be looking at a quick market update, and also going to be looking at update on the crypto market and what is going on. As you guys know, 2025 has started with a lot of volatility, and that is because of one reason, and that is the Feds. The Feds have refused to keep the rates down. It's going to be a higher for longer. And why is that? That's because the Feds, they continue to receive good economic data, good job reports. As a matter of fact, the market was closed today just to honor the death of President Jimmy Carter. May his soul rest in peace. Now, with that being said, today I'm going to be diving into the charts. I'm going to be showing you guys how I use my top-down analysis, whereby I look at the weekly chart and also look at the daily chart and take a look at some of my major indicators that I use and see if these signatures are telling me if it's a buy or if it's a sell. And I kind of like sum up all those indicators together and use whatever number that I'm getting to see which of the direction is being favored the most. Again, it might sound like I'm blabbing, but I'm going to show you guys how I do it and how I use my top-down analysis. Now, you can see what you guys are seeing here is the XPX 500, which is one of my major indexes that I use to analyze the US market. Now, there are three major indexes that I use, which is the XPX 500, the US 30, and the NASDAQ 100. Now, the direction of these three indexes always gives me the indication of where I think the US market or the direction of the US market would be going in the near future. And I'm going to explain to you guys how I use that interpretation. Now, as you guys can see on the screen, you see that I have the chart of the XPX 500, and this is a daily chart. And one of the things that should stand out to you is this B sign and this green arrow. Or in the situation, sometimes I get the S sign and this red arrow. Now, these are my primary indicators. Now, if I was to get a B sign, that means buy. And if I get a green arrow, that means the price is going up. But if I get an S sign, that means sell. And if I get a red arrow, that means the price should be coming down. Now, I would show you guys my Excel sheet, which I normally use. And I use this Excel sheet to kind of like collect data from both the daily chart and the weekly chart. And these are the names of the indicators that I typically look at. It's the same indicators, I just look at them on the daily and I also look at them on the weekly. And you can see I have an X and I have an O. The X is marked as green and the O is marked as red. Now, the green side simply means a buy signal or a bullish signal, and the red side simply means a bear signal or sell signal or bearish signal. Now, the way this works is very, very simple. I simply just take these indicators and I want to see what the interpretation is telling me. So, for example, if you look at this ASGMA right now, the ASGMA on my chart is this B sign, so it's telling me it's a buy on the ASGMA indicator. Sometimes I could get the S sign. So immediately I get this B sign, I simply just come to my chart and mark that side or the green side as 1. Now, the SSL is also another primary indicator, as I want to compare both the SSL and the ASGMA. And you can see on the chart, the current SSL is telling me it's a green arrow, which means the price is supposed to be going up. And I simply just come to my chart and mark that part as 1. Now, just because it's telling me it's a buy doesn't necessarily mean it's a buy. And this is exactly why I do this analysis, so that I'm not just relying on one indicator to tell me where I'm supposed to be going or where I think the direction is going, because that is a dangerous or a lazy way to use technical indicators. You have to look at multiple indicators and see how they align and how they are in agreement before you can actually make a decision. I believe this is more of a good way or better way to make technical decisions when it comes to trading. So again, the next one I'm looking at is the Ichimoku. The Ichimoku on the daily chart, I simply come to my chart again. The Ichimoku is this green cloud, and if the price is above the Ichimoku, then that is going to be a buy or a bullish signal. But if I do see this price come below the Ichimoku. Let's see if there was any time. You can see at some point in time in 2023 the price was below the Ichimoku, and that is more of a bearish signal. So you can see the price for the most part in 2024 has been trading above that Ichimoku cloud. So I'm going to zoom back inside again so you guys can see. So you can see it's been trading above that Ichimoku cloud, but currently the price, which is this candlestick, this green and red sticks, you can see that the current candlestick is actually in the cloud, right? So with that being said, because it's in the cloud, that gives me more of a neutral move. So I can't necessarily decide. So what I do is I simply come to my Excel and I mark Ichimoku 1 for buy and 1 for sell. So that way I give them 1 and 1. Now, the other one is the baseline. My baseline, what are my baseline? My baseline are these moving averages. So you can see these two red lines and this yellow line are my baseline. Now, if the price is above, just like you see here, so you can see the price at some point went above these moving averages. At this time, it was actually green. And you see, once the price goes above these three moving averages, and that is more of a buy signal. But the fact that this price now is currently below these three moving averages, that is telling me that this is more of a sell signal, right? Hope you guys are, hope I'm communicating, which is why I came here and I marked the baseline indicator as 1 on the red side. Now the next one is the SMI1 and the SMI2. So the SMI1 and the SMI2, where are they? These are typically below the chart, so you can see the primary indicators such as the ASGMA and the SSL and the baseline and the Ichimoku are actually on the chart, but below the chart are the secondary indicators. So let's start taking a look at some of these secondary indicators to see how they interpret. Now, the first thing you would notice here is the 2-line cross for the SMI. The SMI actually has 2 interpretations to it. So all you need to know is that whenever the green line is above the red, that is more of a buy signal. But if you see the red above the green, then that's going to be more of a sell signal. So you can see currently the red is above the green. That is telling me this is a sell or a bearish signal. Now, the other thing you also have to note is that we have 3 lines, but this yellow line is the most important line of the 3, which is the 0 line. And all you need to know is that if the lines or my signal lines are below that 0 line, then that is more of a more confirmation of a bearish signal. But now, don't get me wrong, there are some times you could actually see a bearish signal but above the 0 line, kind of like what we saw in this case. And again, in this case, we're just getting more of a bearish signal below the 0 line, which is why when I go to my Excel sheet, I simply mark the SMI1 and the SMI2 because there are 2 interpretations as 1 and 1. So they are both on the bearish side because I'm getting the red above the green and I'm also getting it below the 0 line. Hope I'm making sense. The next one is the DD, and it's very, very simple. One of my easiest interpretation. You can see the DD. What you need to know is that we have a signal line and a 0 line. If the signal line is above the 0 line, then that is a bullish signal. But in the situation whereby the signal line starts to go below, then that is more of a bearish or a sell signal, right? So you can see the current DD is actually on the negative side. It's actually below the 0 line. So I'm going to come here simply to my Excel and mark the DD index here on the bearish side, or give it a bearish indicator. Again, the next one is the MACD. The MACD has 3 interpretations to it, and sometimes these things can be even. You can get a bullish signal and also get a bearish signal on this MACD. And how do I mean? Let's go to the chart real quick. As you can see on the MACD, which is the one below, which is this one, you can see that we've gone from a red color to a green color. So if you are getting a green color, that is more of a buy signal. But you can see this green color is apparently below the 0 line, right? So because it's below the 0 line, that is a bearish signal, even though it's a green bar. So the green bar justifies a buy or a bullish signal, but the fact that the green bar is below the 0 line is justifying more of a bearish signal, which is why I come to my MACD, I mark 1 as bullish and I mark the MACD2 as bearish. So a 1 and 1. Hope I'm communicating. The next one is my TSI. My TSI, I simply come down to the next indicator, which is this one, and you can see the TSI happens to be below the 0 line in this case, which is more of a bearish signal. If the TSI was above or on the positive side, then that would be more of a bullish or a buy signal. So because it's a bearish signal or sell signal, I simply come to my Excel and mark the TSI 1, but on the bearish side. The next one is the ASH, and the ASH is this last one, and the ASH is this last one. You can see the ASH again is very simple, 2-line cross. If the green is above the red, then that is a buy signal or a bearish or a bullish signal. But you can see currently we see a red above the green, and that is more of a bearish signal or a sell signal. So I simply just come to my Excel one more time and mark my ASH as 1, but on the bearish side. Now for the weekly, all we need to do is just simply come here and switch to the weekly. So again, you can see for the daily, let me just quickly confirm something. For the daily, each candle here represents 1 day. So you can see this is Friday the 10th, and this is 9th of January. So you can see this candle is actually the futures candle, which is why you're seeing this candle today, and it's currently let's see, you can see it's currently down 0.38%. so that's not looking good for tomorrow. Now for the weekly, remember each of these candles represents 1 week. Now do I interpret this? You can see first of all, I'm getting an S sign and a red arrow, which indicates that the price of the US market or the SPX 500 is supposed to be going down, which is exactly what is happening. So what do? I simply come to the weekly chart on my weekly Excel. Now I mark the ASGMA and the SSL, and I give both of them 1 and 1, but on the bearish or on the sell side. Now the next one is the Ichimoku. Just like I explained it to you guys, if the price is above the Ichimoku, then that is more of a buy or bullish signal, but if it's below, then that's more of a bearish or sell signal. So you can see, despite the fact that we are getting the S and the red arrow, the price is still relatively above the Ichimoku. So we're going to come to the weekly and mark that positive side on the Ichimoku weekly. Now the next thing is the baseline. The baseline weekly, let's take a look at what that is doing. The baseline weekly, you can see the candlesticks at the price. You can see my moving averages at my baseline, which is this 2 red lines and this yellow one. You can see sometimes the color changes. If it's a bearish, it's gonna give you a red signal, but if you get a B sign or a green arrow, it's gonna give you more of a green color. So you can see currently the price is below those 3 moving averages, so we know that it's definitely a bearish signal or sell signal, which is why we mark the baseline weekly as 1 in this case. Now the SMI1 and the SMI2 on the weekly, again, is the same interpretation as we saw on the daily. And you can see, if you go to the chart, what you simply see here is that, again, these are the secondary indicators, which are always below the chart. And it's very simple. It's a 2-line cross. Again, if the red is above the green, that is definitely a bearish or a sell signal. But however, these signal lines are actually above the 0 line, which is more of a bullish signal, which is why on my Excel, I'm going to give one side of my interpretation a sell, and I'm going to give the other side a buy. So it's 1 and 1 for the SMI. The next one is the DD. So I simply come down again to my chart. I'm going to minimize this, and you can see the DD in this case is beginning to go below the 0 line, or it's on its negative side. So this is definitely a bearish signal, which is why I have marked this as 1 on the bearish side for the DD on the SPX 500. The next one is the MACD 1 and 2 again on the weekly. I simply just come here, let's minimize this and go to the MACD. You can see the MACD, you're going from a green to a red color, and the red color, like I said, is always a bearish signal. However, the red bars are still above 0, which indicates a bullish signal. So I simply come to my Excel again for the MACD. I'm going to mark 1 for the bullish side and mark the MACD 2 for the bearish. So again, it's a 1 for the bullish and 1 for the bearish for the MACD. And sometimes we can get 1 1 for the bullish, and we can also get 1 1 for the bearish side. Hope I'm communicating. Now the next one is the TSI. You can see the TSI is the one that is directly below this, and the TSI, you can see currently now is beginning to go below my 0 line. So for the most part, it was above the 0 line on the positive side, but the fact that we're going below the 0 line right now, it's telling me this is more of a bearish or a sell signal. So we come strictly to the Excel, and we're going to mark the TSI as 1, but on the bearish signal. The last one is the ASH. You can see the ASH. What is it telling us? Let me minimize this. So the ASH, you can see that the green is actually above the red. I'm going to delete this line. It seems confusing. The green is above the red, which is typically a buy or bullish signal. But you can see that the green is ultimately coming down and the red is kind of going up. So at some point, I'm sure there's going to be a crossover, which will now switch to more of a sell or a bearish signal. But right now, it's still looking bullish, so we're not going to interpret beyond what we cannot see. Okay, that's the good thing about this analysis. So I simply come down to my Excel and I mark this ASH side as positive side or bullish signal. Now, by the time I finish doing the analysis, the next thing is I will sum up how much of the signals am I getting for the bears or the sell, or how much am I getting for the bulls. As you can see, for the XPS currently it's 15 to 8. So I'm getting 15 sell signals or bearish signals with respect to 8 bullish signals or buy signals. So you can see the bears are still in control of this index. Now, the next one is the Nasdaq 100. I'm not going to dive too much into this, but you guys already understand the concept. But let's still take a look at the Nasdaq 100 real quick and see what the Nasdaq 100 is currently showing us. So the Nasdaq 100, as you guys can see, the futures is actually down 0.43%. Again, it's not looking good for the futures. And let's just take a look at the daily. You can see that there is a trend line that we're currently following, which we tend to find support. Also, we tend to find resistance whenever we hit this trend line, which is forming these higher highs. And we're beginning to see another support below here, which now is forming lower lows. And again, we broke that support right here, lower lows. And you can see now we are beginning to break this support, and there's a chance that we're going to form another lower low here before maybe we go test this support line and fall further down, or maybe we might go test this trend line again and fall further down. Who knows what's going to happen? But again, these are just my own interpretation of what I think. Where you can see that the current signature for my primary indicators, I have a green arrow, and the last indicator for the ASGMA, as you can see, was this S sign. So I have this S sign, but I'm also getting this green arrow. So you can see we've gone from red to green to red and back to green. So if I come to my Excel, I will simply mark the ASGMA as a sell, which is what we go for the sell. But you can see the current SSL is a green, which is why we put it on the bullish side. The Ichimoku, you can see the Ichimoku is still the price is still above the Ichimoku, which is why I've given this one a bullish signal. So again, by the time I do all this analysis, kind of like what I showed you guys with the XPX 500, you can see that the sum currently is pretty close for the Nasdaq, which is not something small of a mixed signal. But I bet you by the time I do my analysis tomorrow, I'm sure this is going to overtake. I'm going to be getting more bearish signal with respect to bullish signal. Now the next one is my US 30, which is one of the most obvious indicators, my most obvious indices. US 30, you can see for the US 30, I'm getting, oh wow, the US 30 is actually down 100 points in the futures currently. So that is definitely not looking good again for tomorrow. Like I said before, the bears are still in control of this market, which is why you have to be very, 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 very careful. And if you take a look at some of my secondary indicators, again, even though we are getting a buy and a green arrow, that does not necessarily mean this is a good time to buy. You need to use other indicators to confirm what is actually going on. So you can see that the price itself is below my moving averages. And not only that, if you come down to my SMI, you can see my SMI, even though I have a green above the red, you can see that this is still definitely on the negative side. So if I come down to my Excel, you can see that my SMI, I've marked it as 1, being a bullish signal. But the fact that it's still below that 0, or below that 0, that's why I've marked it as 1 for the negative as well. So the DD, you can see the DD on the US 30 is actually is this one. You can see it's actually below my 0 line, so definitely going to be on the negative side of things on the daily chart. The MACD, like I said before, the MACD is looking at two different interpretations. You can see even though I'm getting the green color currently, it's still below the 0 line, and that is still telling me that even though I'm getting a bullish signal with the color or the change in the bars, the fact that it's still below 0 is still telling me that is bearish, which is why I have marked the MACD 1 as bullish and marked the MACD 2 as bearish. The TSI on the other hand, let's take a look at it. TSI on the other hand is actually below 0, as you can see, so that is a bearish or sell signal. So So we simply just come here and we just mark the TSI as 1, and the ASH, I'm sure if you take a look at it real quick, you can see that the ASH itself, you can see that the red is above the green, and that is a bearish or sell signal, which is why we've come here and we've marked that as well on the one side. Again, I did the same thing for the weekly chart, and you can see the summation of everything is giving me a 15 to 7, which means I'm getting more sell signals with respect to more buy signals. So you can see all the indices are already indicating the sign that this market is most likely going to drop, which is one of the reasons why I've been giving warning signs that the bears are still in control. Now let's take a look at crypto. You can see I was actually bullish on crypto before last week or a couple days ago, but you can see with my recent update, crypto now is showing me more of a switch, which means I'm now seeing 12 bearish signals with respect to 11 buy signals. So it's a little bit of a mixed signal, but that is a good indication, or that is all I need to see in order for me to exit my Bitcoin positions as I'm swing trading Bitcoin currently. So I don't think that, because of this kind of signature, I'm definitely not going to be buying any more dips in the Bitcoin, as we need to be very, very careful. So let's take a look at the Bitcoin chart real quick. I'm going to minimize this. The Bitcoin chart, you can see, what am I getting on the Bitcoin chart? I'm looking at BTCUSD. So you can see BTCUSD currently, what do we see? We see a red sign, S sign, and we see the red arrow. So again, my SSL and my ASGMA are definitely both on the negative side. So we need to take this ASGMA on the daily, take that and definitely put it to the negative side. Now, the Ichimoku, what's the Ichimoku saying? You can see the Ichimoku, the Bitcoin is actually inside the Ichimoku. You can see the price is actually inside the Ichimoku. And whenever I get a price inside the Ichimoku, that is always a neutral sign. So I simply just come to my Excel and just mark the Ichimoku 1 and 1, which means 1 for the bullish and 1 for the bearish side. The baseline on the other end, you can see the baseline. What am I getting? The price is actually below these 3 moving averages, so definitely a bearish signal for the baseline. So very simple, I come to my baseline and mark 1, but on the bearish side. The SMI1 and the SMI2, two interpretations, come down here, and what am I seeing? Those are the secondary indicators below, and you can see for Bitcoin today, we're seeing a switch. So before, the green was above the red, but you can see there's a switch right there. Now the red is now becoming above the green, and not only that, the signature of this green line is now beginning to go into the negative side. So that is telling me that we are getting a bearish signal, and now the signals are also going below 0. So we simply come to my Excel sheet, and what do? We're going to mark 1 for the bearish, and we're going to take this one and now take it to the bearish side as well. Now let's take a look at the Diddy. What is the Diddy saying? The Diddy for the BTC is the one below below this indicator. So this is the Diddy. You can see the Diddy is below the 0 line. That is a bearish sign for Bitcoin. Very, very simple. So we come down here and we make sure that that is on the negative side as well. Now the mark D 1 and 2, what is that doing? Let's take a look at that. Again, very, very simple ways to look at this. Mark the 1 and 2. What do we see? We've gone from, you see, we had this green line that, in fact, these green bars were above the 0 line. And what do we see now? We've seen a switch from green to red, but the red bar still remains above 0. So we're going to share this mark, this signature. So we're going to give 1 for the bullish side and 1 for the bearish side, which is what we see. So we're going to simply take 1 from here and put it on the bearish side. Now the next one is the TSI ASH. You can see the TSI ASH. What are we looking at? TSI ASH is this. This is the TSI. You can see currently the TSI now is beginning to go on the negative side, or it's below 0. So I simply just come here and mark my TSI. In fact, I have to take this one and mark the TSI to the negative side and give it 1. And the ASH in this case is actually going to be 1 as well, because you see it, just to make sure you guys see it, you can see that we're beginning to see that crossover right there, which is indicating that bearish sign or sell signature in this case. So I'm simply just going to come down here and take this ASH and definitely put it to the bearish side, which is something I've already done. So you can see I'm getting 16 to 7. And we can also take a look at the weekly just to confirm if that is the case, if we need to make any updates. So if you switch to the weekly just by clicking on this, you you can see that we do have that red arrow and the sell signal as well. So you simply just come to the weekly, make sure that they're both on the bearish side for the ASGMA and the SSL. The Ichimoku, however, it's always going to be above, the price is always going to be above the Ichimoku for now. So what do? We simply just give the Ichimoku on the weekly 1 for the bullish side. Now the baseline, remember the baseline, what I was saying on the baseline, the price now is beginning to be below this one of my primary baselines, but you can see it's still above these two, but because it's not completely below the 3 of them or above the 3 of them, so we're going to leave this baseline as 1 and 1, so it's still inconclusive. So let's just mark this as 1, or I can mark it as 1 for the bearish side, because or 1 for the bearish side, because we're beginning to go below the primary indicator. So let's just mark it as 1 on the bearish side. Now the SMI1 and the SMI2, very, very simple interpretation. So let's take a look at the secondary indicators below. You can see that we're beginning to get crossover. Again, the red is above the green, but these signal lines are still way above my 0 cutoff, right? So I'm just going to come here and mark both 1 for the bearish side and mark 1 for the bullish side. Now the DD on the other end, what is the DD telling me? You can see that the DD on the other end is beginning to go below my 0 line. So this is definitely a bearish signal for the DD for Bitcoin. So we just pretty much come to my Excel again and make sure that this is on the bearish side. So we've already marked that 1, and then mark the 1 and mark the 2. What is that interpretation telling me for the Mark D? You can see that for the Mark D, we are beginning to go from green to red, but we are still above 0. So we're going to be sharing this interpretation 1 and 1. So you get 1 for the bearish side and 1 for the bullish side. The TSI and the ASH are the last 2 indicators. And let's just take a look at what they are doing before we conclude for Bitcoin. So you can see the signal line is still above 0, but that is a bullish sign. And you can see that the ASH, the green, is still above the red, which is still the bullish sign, which is the reason why I marked those 2 as 1 and 1. But now by the time I sum up the numbers of my analysis, you can see that I'm favoring the bears with respect to the bulls, which is why I think that BTC is now back to a bearish signal, which is why I sold my position today, and I'm definitely not going to be adding more or buying more for now, as I'm going to be holding off until I see a swap in these indicators. Again, like I said, what is going on with the market? Why is the market so volatile? Why are we getting all these downward spiral moves? And I believe again it's because of the economic data that is coming out. The Feds have refused to cut rates tomorrow, January 10th. Like I said, we're expecting more economic data, which is the non-farm employment change and the unemployment rate. Now, the non-farm employment change means that how many people are actually being employed. That's what that is telling me, right? So the forecast was 164, and previously they got a 227K. Now, if a situation happens and we get above this 227K tomorrow, there's a chance that the market might come down. Remember what I said, the market does not seem to like good economic data, because that is forcing the Feds not to cut rates. And if this employment rate for some reason comes down below this 4.2%, that's definitely going to be a double whammy tomorrow in the market. So again, you guys be very careful. Make sure you're doing your due diligence. You understand why the market is coming down. You understand both your technicals and your fundamentals, so that way you guys don't run into a lot of trouble when you're trading this market. All right, this is your boy Cincy, aka Mr. Good Vibes, and let's make some small money together, even if it's just a little.